Hide it. Hi, good evening, good evening. Welcome. We have made it to Tuesday. It is the day after Labor Day. I don't know about you. I really needed that Monday off. So I'm sending hugs out to everyone that didn't have yesterday off because I know I needed that time. I needed that time, something super duper serious. I just needed a little rest. So as you come in, just let me know, how are you feeling today? How did you deal with Labor Day? I guess I'm about to say today, but that was actually yesterday. I just want to make sure everyone's doing okay and that we're all making it through here pretty well. I'm just doing a couple of little arrangements right there. So thank you so much. So we're going to start with the usual things. The first thing is welcome to Growth Groove with Dr. Erica. This is my Tuesday show. It's the one that's always here no matter what is going on. So I'm so excited to be here. As you know, that's my one time to say it. So I can't say excited anymore, but welcome. Happy Tuesday. Hi, Dr. Dietrich. I'm so glad you are doing well. And before we jump into the topic, I want to do just a little touch of housekeeping. First thing is, if you know anybody that needs this, please share it. And also, if you know anybody that needs this, you have the option to tag them. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. The next thing is that if you're watching it later, it's all good. Just hit hashtag replay. We can make it happen. Sound like a plan? Let's go ahead and get to it. So I am your host, Dr. Erica, double board certified psychiatrist, Harvard trained psychiatrist, and integrative lifestyle coach. I'm on a mission to help women feel seen, valued, and whole on their own terms. But today, it doesn't matter your gender. I'm just here to help you get through all of this insanity and chaos and have your sanity intact at the end. I just want everyone to be able to feel good at the end of all of this craziness. So you might be wondering, hey, Dr. Erica, why are you talking about suicide today? It's a little bit different than your usual topics. Well, number one, I still am a psychiatrist. So even though I love talking about feelings and how people can feel better and just managing and coping during this crazy time, is I'm still a psychiatrist. So I still deal with these kinds of things. I've been dealing with them for years through my work. The next thing is, it is actually, depending on how you look it up, Suicide Prevention Month. In some places it says National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. But Suicide Prevention Month is just a little bit easier to manage, a little less words. So it's Suicide Prevention Month. And one of the reasons it hits hard for me, or hits home, is because out of most of what I do as a psychiatrist, the one thing you're afraid of is that someone's going to complete suicide. And just one thing I'd like to give in terminology, so this way you can say that you are super duper smart. So especially if you're not in medicine, I'm going to give you a little factoid here. So sometimes you'll hear people say someone successfully committed suicide, or they had a successful suicide. We don't typically use that term because it makes it sound like it's a good thing someone committed suicide. So we typically will say things like completed. So that's a nugget. You can sound extra smart and use completed, not successful. Okay? So the next thing is so as we were saying, September is Suicide Prevention Month. So I want to do my part to help people get educated so that we can do what we can to prevent and be proactive. Because at the end of the day, just as it's my passion to make sure that people live with the highest quality of life they can have, the key word is live. I need people to be alive to do it. So for me, this is huge. And for a lot of people don't talk about suicide that much, but it happens. It's out there. And most people's lives have in some way been touched by someone. And on top of the fact that we see celebrity suicides, like previously Anthony Bourdain was someone really notable that committed suicide. And one of the things that had me think about talking about this today is, I don't know about you all, I get so many alerts on my phone, and one is something called Newsbreak. And it gave an alert that said someone actually committed suicide on a Facebook Live. And it really struck me because also the thing about social media is I also work with young people. And the interesting thing is when I work in the hospital with young people, and I work with little kids and teenagers in the hospital sometimes, is that it felt like 80% of them, some social media was involved. It's someone cut themselves on social media, someone said they were going to hurt themselves on Snapchat. It's just always something, or someone got a message and that kind of threw them reeling on some type of social media. So I've seen so much with social media, and then now we're having this point where people are actually hurting themselves on social media. So I wanted to just take a few moments and talk about this. And now I'm not going to give you a zillion years worth of info. I want to make sure that this is stuff you can actually remember. So we're just going to talk about a few things. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, it's not uncommon for people to say that they don't want to talk about suicide or ask anybody if they're feeling like hurting themselves or feeling suicidal, because they're concerned it's going to make people feel more suicidal or encourage them to hurt themselves. And the honest to goodness truth is that there have been studies that have shown that talking about it doesn't encourage someone to do it. And a lot of the frame is, we're not talking about glorifying suicide or just watching stuff about suicide just to watch it. We're talking about the fact that for a lot of people, they may not broach the subject, ask someone how they're feeling, talk about what they're thinking, because they're afraid that if they ask, someone will have these thoughts. So a lot of this centers around the fact that you actually can ask someone how they're doing. You can talk to them if they're having thoughts of hurting themselves, or ask them if they've ever had thoughts of hurting themselves, or if they're thinking of hurting themselves. Just because you ask doesn't mean they're going to do it. They're not any more likely to do it just because you asked. And one of the major tenets of supporting people around these kinds of thoughts, or when they're in this type of pain, is to actually talk to them. I know this sounds really simple, to actually talk to people, but have you ever had those moments where someone was going through something tough and you just weren't sure what to say, so you just didn't say anything? I think we've all been guilty at some point of that someone's had a death, or lost their job, or had a breakup, or someone cheated on them, and you just didn't know what to say. And the one thing I'd like to encourage people is, you don't have to make this complicated. As someone supporting people in your life, be it at work, at home, in the community, no one is asking you to magically become a psychiatrist and know how to do everything that we do. No one's asking that. Sometimes it's about asking people how they're feeling, asking people how they're doing, asking people what's going on with them. The interesting thing about it is, I've gone to so many trainings, and the one thing that comes out every time I go to any of these trainings is there's always the story of someone who had planned to kill themselves, and someone saw them and talked to them, or looked at them, or acknowledged them, and then they changed their mind. So there is something to be said for being present and for actually seeing people. And when I say seeing people, think of Avatar and the Blue People and the Na'vi. I'm about to nerd out for a second. It's really seeing people. And there's something about when people feel seen, it helps give them hope, and also makes them feel like their life matters. Because for a lot of people, when you talk to them and they're having these feelings, one of the things I hear all so often my patients will say is, someone will be better off without them, or their family will be better off without them, or no one will miss them. And there's something powerful about letting people know that they matter. The next thing is sometimes people think only depressed people commit suicide, like only people with depression. the interesting thing is there are so many people out there and they aren't all depressed. So you have people that have bipolar disorder, have schizophrenia. You also will see this quite a bit. One of my colleagues, Dr. Napoleon Higgins, and I have done a talk. We actually did it a couple times this year at NAMI, the National NAMI Convention, and also for the National Medical Association Convention around suicide, especially in youth. And there is this thought sometimes that it's only depressed people, but one of the risk factors, or one of the groups of people that can sometimes have these things, you can actually see it in young people that really have ADHD, learning disorders. You also see it in people with substance abuse, and you may see it with people that don't have diagnosed mental illness or are dealing with something that just has them just reeling, like a death of a loved one. You also can see it. One of the other ways you'll see it, especially in the elderly, is severe pain, when they feel like it's not tolerable anymore. But the thing is to remember that there are a wide group of people that may be struggling or suffering, and it doesn't have to be someone with a depressive disorder. The last thing is the last myth, and today I just picked 3. There are so many, so let me know if you'd like me to go through some more, because I can come on again and go through some more. The last one is this feeling that Black people don't commit suicide. And Black people, they'll say Black people don't do this. And the honest thing is, yes, we do. It occurs in all the cultural subsets of our country. We can't say Black people don't. If you need some facts, the interesting thing are Black youths that are 5 to 12 have nearly double the rate of suicide of white youth. So if it doesn't happen to us, then you wouldn't see it. The next thing is that the highest rate of increase of youth suicides right now is in Black males. And it's been a big talk, a big push. They're starting to do more research around that to look at what is causing there to be this increase of suicide, not only in the Black community, but especially in young Black people. But we have to get over this notion that Black people don't do this, because we do. And I wanted to take a moment, not just because I am Black, but this is important information for everyone. Suicide isn't a white people problem. It's an everybody problem. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for people 10 to 34. It's the 4th leading cause of death for people 35 to 54. It's the second leading cause of death for African Americans 15 to 24. And youth that identify as gay, lesbian, or bisexual have higher rates of attempts of suicide, and transgender youth are 12 times more likely to attempt suicide. So it's an everybody problem. And that's something I want to make sure people understand. It's an everybody problem. But you know what? The thing is, if something is an everybody problem, that means it's an everybody solution. So suicide hurts and it's sad, but there are things we can do to help. And we'll probably do another one and talk about some of the things we can do to support and help and to do more prevention. Today was more about just some myths, and there are more myths than this. But I just really wanted to come in here and do a little quality time around some of the stuff that's been going on. Because a lot of times people, if you don't work in mental health, you may not necessarily know these things are going on so much. And a lot of times there's this perception that it's, angsty people, angsty teens, emo teens, and it can be anybody. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to really care and listen and pay attention to the people around you, because it can be anybody. And one of the reasons I think it's an important topic to talk about today is people are struggling. People are dealing with totally new situations and extremely high levels of stressors. And you never know when someone feels like they're about ready to give up, or they just can't hold on anymore and they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel or see any hope. So I just wanted to make sure I spent some time talking about that. So we're gonna do just a quick review. So the 3 myths we're talking about today, and before we do that, I'm gonna encourage people, if you feel like anybody needs this, please share it. You also have the option to tag, and if you're watching it later, no worries, just put hashtag replay in the comments. And thanks again for taking time out of your day. So we're gonna do a quick review and then I'm gonna get you out of here. So the first myth is that talking about suicide makes people more suicidal. Fact is, it just doesn't. So don't avoid asking people how they're feeling, asking if people are having thoughts of hurting themselves. And if they say they do, asking them more, because you're not going to make them more suicidal. It may actually show you that they care. There are actually some PSAs that were out there, and they talked about having the awkward conversation. Those are actually some of my favorite videos. But sometimes we have to do that. The next thing is that only depressed people commit suicide. And it's not just depression. It can be loss. It can be, you'll have people that have lost their job, people in severe pain, substance abuse, ADHD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, just something just went sideways and someone just doesn't know how to cope. It can be a wide variety of things, but it's not just people with depression. And the last thing was, yes, Black people do commit suicide. This is an everybody problem. We can't just point fingers and say this is a white person problem, this is a woman problem, this is a man problem. It's an everybody problem, which means we all need to be part of the solution together. And part of being the solution together is honestly being empathic and caring for each one of us and truly being our sister's keeper and our brother's keeper. So I just want to encourage everyone to actually ask people how they're doing. There was a moment, I don't know how many of you watched the show Being Mary Jane. I don't think I watched the last season, but one of the seasons, one of her good friends committed suicide. And there was this moment when Gabrielle Union was doing the eulogy, and she talked about asking people, how are they? And how often people just say okay, or they don't really tell you. And I think it takes an act of bravery and empathy to honestly encourage people and let them know if you're a safe space to let you know if they are not okay. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Again, September is Suicide Prevention Month. It's a good time to get some more information. Also, if you know anyone or yourself, you're struggling, below scrolling is the phone number for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, 1-800-273-8255. And if you're not really a call, you don't want to talk, like talk, you can text. You can just text talk to 741-741. That's just text the word talk to 741-741. And I just want to encourage everyone, please be kind to yourself and please be kind to others. And give yourself a big hug, because I would give you one if I could and there wasn't COVID. And I just want to give you your usual prescription. Make sure you call someone and tell them you love them. So again, I'm your host, Dr. Erica. I'm a double board certified and Harvard trained psychiatrist and integrative lifestyle coach. I'm here to help women feel seen, valued, and whole on their own terms. But today, it doesn't matter your gender. I'm just here to help you make it through all of this craziness with your sanity intact. And it's my passion for everyone to be able to find some hope and hold on to love. So that's what I have for you tonight. Thank you so much for coming. Again, if you also are stressed out or just feel like you need a mental health checkup or just want to talk to someone and see if there's anything else you can do, I do have a telepsychiatry practice. It's all adult right now, so 18 and over, and it is cash-based, so I can do it and provide the highest level of care possible. I'm currently focusing on Georgia, Missouri, Tennessee, Massachusetts, California, and Texas. But if you're somewhere else, you can still give me a holler. Just go to askdrgoodwin.com, AskDrGoodwin.com is scrolling across the bottom, but it seems like it's scrolling in slow motion. So again, thank you so much. Sending love and prayers out to all of you. Take care. And I guess I have to say hello to my mom before I leave. Good night, y'all.